Maine is known for its coastal beauty, seafood, and rich fishing culture. Known as vacation land, it serves as a summer destination for tourists of all kinds. As many know, striped bass migrate to these waters each year and spend their summers feeding on the mudflats, sandy beaches, and harsh rocky ledges. I think that Maine is one of the best places on the East Coast to be a striped bass fisherman. But, that being said, the life of a striped bass fisherman is complicated. We spend all winter, and it's a long winter, waiting for those bass to get here. So the second they get here, you feel like you need to make every moment count. It's early mornings, it's late nights, 1 a.m. alarms, not going to bed at some time. The last thing you want is to wake up in the morning and get that text from your buddy that they were going off last night. The bass get here last and they leave here first. So the second that they're here, you really, feel a sense of urgency. As a shore fisherman, you become very familiar with the shores that you fish and the water that you fish. And there's always those spots that are just out of reach that you say, I bet there's fish there. So when you get the opportunity to access those spots and reach a little bit further out, you're gonna take it. So this trip has been in the works for a while. Me and the guys have definitely thought about trying to get out to those spots that we couldn't reach. You spend all winter looking at Google Maps, and there's so many small islands on Maine and small points that are just barely inaccessible by foot, and you just need one more quick step to get out there. So this has been in the works for a long time, and Bonafide gave us a chance to try out some of their rigs. Yeah, as far as the crew goes, you got Rick, who is a flats guy. He is experienced in the skinny water. And then Flynn, another fly fisherman. He's a stick off the rocks. He's more geared towards the ledges. I'm definitely the outlier, being the spinning guy, and it comes with a little bit of shame, but it also comes with a little bit of pride.
Yeah, it was definitely nice to have Scott around because he puts the fly fishermen in their place.
I'll be quite honest, we're not kayak fishermen. We're not boat guys in general. It's a matter of kind of becoming familiar with the kayaks at the same time as it was getting familiar with the new fishing styles. And again, it made it fun, it made it interesting, and added that challenge that, we were looking for.
This morning, we're launching out at the beach, and we're gonna take a little bit of a trip down the coast, about 4 or 5 miles, and we're gonna hit some new patches of water that I don't think any of us have really fished from shore before. So that'll be a fun learning experience. But we really wanted to maximize our time out figuring these kayaks out and seeing what they were all about. We found some big fish off the beach and wanted to test the kayaks and see what they could do. So we decided to launch them in the surf. Launch was good. It was a little hairy at some points, but we got out there. We're able to work our way down the beach and find these big schools that were just sitting right on the surface, tails, fins sticking out of the water. You could see them flash and roll. They were a little finicky. It was a little tough to catch them. Got a lot of follows right up to the kayaks before they turn off and swim back to the school. We tried so many different things, tried different lines, different weight leaders. I'm pretty sure I threw every single fly that I had in my box.
Yeah, we got a little carried away with those fish. And as the day went on, the swell picked up, and we were not expecting such high swells.
They were big enough at certain points that when Rick was out in front of me and he would go up over the wave first, he would completely disappear behind it.
Getting to the beach was going to be a little harder than we expected.
Plan was to meet the guys. They were out on the water. I was going to meet them out there for some evening fishing, and quickly realized after I showed up that maybe the surf had grown a little bit since they had launched. And we found out quickly that a kayak and a longboard are not one and the same. I just happened to grab the underwater camera out of Cam's bag And the idea was just to kind of have Cam grab them out of the surf before anything got crazy and guide the kayaks in. Flynn's went okay, as good as it could have, besides his automatic PFD inflating on itself when he jumped off of the kayak. And then quickly after Rick began to head in, both of us, I think, realized that maybe he didn't pick the best time to have done so. And I definitely felt, you know, a little bit of panic for him.
And he pulls his engine up, boat goes sideways, wave crashes on him, and he just gets tumbled.
Quickly turned to make sure Rick was okay and then collect his belongings, because there was a Yeti floating, there was a seat floating, rod tips sticking up out of the water. It was a game of 52 pickup, you know.
Pretty funny. Luckily, he was okay. Kayak was okay. He didn't lose anything, but it was a little bit of extra excitement on the way in on the landing that we all learned from for later dates when we launched off that same beach.
You know, we're all kind of needed to kind of just relax after that. Such a long day of casting and no eats, and so it was honestly another perfect opportunity to just have a fire and chill out and crack a beer.
Today it looks like we're going to try to explore a little bit of both. We're going to get some ledge, we're going to get some sandy beach, maybe try a little bit of offshore stuff depending on what we see and depending on how the bass feel.
The first day that we were able to all get out together, we went to a really cool spot that we'd all fished from shore, but never from a boat. And it's a really unique spot because it's got this transition zone of rocky ledge, deep water, right to shore, to more of a long sandy beach where it's a much gradual drop off.
We hit a little bit of everything, which I think was the idea, kind of the overall idea of the trip, was to try a little bit of everything and see what these fish were doing. Started on the beaches, kind of sight fishing in shallow water, looking for tailing fish and cruising fish in the shallows.
We were able to sight fish from the kayaks, just cruising right along the beach. Since they were so stable, you can stand up, put it in gear just slightly, and kind of let it just run, and you can look around for cruising fish, try and make some casts at them.
And after doing that, we kind of switched gears and aimed for an island that all of us have looked at a million times from shore, but have never gotten the chance to kind of reach out and go explore. So we went that way and had to portage over a small sandbar. And then once we reached the island, we found a few fish, actually. We had some fish. We had some squid following flies in, which is kind of how we put the pattern together. Flynn made a quick adjustment and threw a squid fly on. I spotted a few feeding fish on top, and after a couple casts, he kind of dredged the bottom with that squid fly. He connected to a decent one.
It was really interesting because I've never really fished a squid bite before.
It's the money. Nice and juicy, sparkly, fresh calamari for the stripers.
We did find fish pretty much everywhere we went. You know, we hit a bunch of different pieces of structure and a bunch of different environments, and what stuck out with me was how hard the fish were to catch. They were very picky. I had one fish on an albie snack. You know, there's nothing more frustrating than seeing fish and seeing a great number of fish and not being able to catch them. And it was kind of eye-opening. Like, you think you're just going to kind of paddle up to these fish and they're going to eat, you know, just because you can reach them, and it's not the case.
This morning we tried to do something new, and it proved to be challenging, but you know, that's always going to be the case, trying something new. And now we're just trying to recoup and figure out how to catch them. And they're big.
Oh, nice.
And they're big.
And they're big.
And they're big, right? So they're headed this way. We're coming from the north. This is me and my little kayak. And that's about scale size of fish to kayak. And
I like this game plan.
One of the coolest things about stripers is just how diverse they are.
Depending on where we're finding the striped bass, they're acting entirely different from each other. You know, in the flats, they're acting like, you know, tailing redfish and bonefish, and they're super selective, going after tiny baits.
We were able to put in on this mud flat that doesn't really have a boat launch. It's got like a little kayak put in, but that's it. And you're right at these beautiful, pristine, clear water mud flats, sand flats, where you can't really get in there any other way. We were able to, at some points, even beach the kayaks.
Yeah, typically most flats in Maine are mud, so they're really hard to get in and wade on. But these flats were super hard and firm with sand, so we were able to kind of get in there quietly and stalk some fish.
We chase fish on the flats, skinny water with crab flies. For me, it was a lot of sightseeing, just because I'm not too slick with a fly rod, but I definitely learned a lot from the guys, because they were right in their element. After I beat a dead horse with a fly rod, we transitioned and we went up and picked an island out of the seemingly endless amount that were there, and we cooked a nice breakfast.
So launching the Bonafides this morning was pretty clutch to get back in here. There's a lot of really nice sand flats, a lot of untouched area that we haven't really fished before. And right now we're taking a little break and having some breakfast.
So one of the benefits of being in Maine is that these spots, like the spot that we picked today, is they're seemingly endless. And that's what's cool about the kayaks, is getting to those unexplored areas. After having explored a ton of good water and a ton of new water and productive water on past days, we kind of all had a bone to pick with the one beach.
Those big schools of fish off the beach were really haunting us.
We had gotten the chance to get out there and kind of start to put the puzzle together of what these fish wanted. I mean, we were seeing thousands and thousands of fish.
We really wanted to go back out there and get another shot at them, especially with Scott, since he missed that first outing. Scott and I got out one morning together and hit the schools pretty hard. We found some bluefish.
The old sleigh ride, man. That's gotta be a blue. It's gotta be. It is a bluefish. Nice bluefish with a cast or ear flint. All over here. God, he's dogging me. It's a nice
fish that really only shows up in Maine for probably about a month, if that.
While it was nice to catch a bluefish, bass were definitely our main priority, and we still hadn't figured that out, so there was more on the table.
The success that we did have, we kind of put together, and we came up with a plan for redemption of how we were going to catch these fish. Spent half the day trying to figure out what they wanted and get them to eat, and getting ready for kind of a beach luau at the end of the day to finish things off and end on a high note. So right when we got out there, we noticed, the first thing we noticed was bait. There was bait off of a ledge.
Oh my God, there's so many.
And 4 of us went over, and I took the sabiki out and caught dinner, and the other guys were catching them on flies, and we had a true mackerel beatdown for about an hour there, where we kind of just loaded up the coolers.
Oh, come on.
The stuff that we were keeping for dinner was bled and gut instantly and thrown into a slurry of salt water and ice.
It was so cool to see all those fish kind of bunched up in one spot. I've never really seen anything like it.
I had a small minnow plug on and decided I was gonna try to get these fish to react to something like that. And at first I didn't have much luck, but after a couple retrieves of super fast burning paws, I got some results. The way I kind of realized that it was more of a reaction bite, and even though these bass were finicky, they would chase an SP minnow if you burned it by their face. And I think it was due to the large amount of sand eels that were on the beach.
Scott definitely put a clinic on those bass. He knew exactly what he's doing. The guy is a guide for a reason.
Towards the end of the session, we started to figure it out more and got a lot of reaction bites. And we were able to pick a few off of the school that were some really high quality stripers. It was really great.
So satisfying to try so many different techniques and flies and stuff. So when you finally hook one, it's just that much more rewarding to feel that tug.
Yeah, so after we had our sweet redemption on the fish, we kind of ran into a pretty ugly thunderstorm that rolled in quick on us. So we regrouped to find dinner, and then that's definitely one of the highlights of Maine, and one of the things we were trying to accomplish is take advantage of everything Maine has to offer. We had caught our mackerel earlier in the day and got them on ice, and those were prepped.
We then moved over to this back cove and we're able to run up on these mud flats at low tide and do a little clamming, which is one of my favorite things. Love it. We found clams super fast. Some really good sized ones.
Clam Master Flynn filled his stripping bucket with some delicious quahog. We did a simple dinner, just kind of highlighting the ingredients that we had foraged, kind of a minimalist approach.
We're just gonna saute some onions to put into our clams. We're gonna make some clams with some wine sauce, some garlic, some butter. Pretty simple
Yeah,
stuff.
at the end of the day, having that fire and just kind of relaxing and reflecting on the trip was a lot of fun. And you know, we got to eat some of the things that we caught and just have some good company and relax on a beautiful beach. So
we are just making some flour tortillas, nice and simple, and we are going to use them to make some fish tacos. Some fish that we jigged up today on stick.
And super delicious. Great way to end the day, and really left it feeling fulfilled.
I definitely think we accomplished majority of our goals. Although there were some challenges, we got to access some pretty unique areas. It really carved a picture in my mind of how to see these fish differently than what they do. So
Kayak fishing is not easy. It's not always, you know, a manicured boat launch. It's not always slick water. We were dealing with surf. We were dealing with carrying them long distances over, you know, over rough ground to get to where we wanted to go and to be able to access these fish. And a lot of times we found ourselves launching in less than ideal areas, but at the same time that was an issue, that's one of the benefits of these kayaks, is being able to launch in places where there isn't a boat launch laid out for you. And there isn't a clear point of entry. And a lot of times that makes better fishing. Like, a lack of accessibility decreases pressure, and that was the water that we wanted to access. Those were the fish we wanted to access.